Yukio and welcome to another video. This one's going to be about Mishima's Spring Snow, the first of his Sea of Fertility novels.
Dreams, memories, the sacred, they are all alike in that they are beyond our grasp. Once we are even marginally separated from what we can touch, the object is sanctified. It acquires the beauty of the unattainable, the quality of the miraculous. Everything, really, has this quality of sacredness, but we can desecrate it at a touch. How strange man is! His touch defiles, yet he contains the source of miracles.
Spring Snow was published serially from 1965 to 1967 and then was published as a book in 1969. A bit about the context and a bit of history on Mishima himself. He's quite like an esoteric figure, I feel like, in Japanese writing, and there's no doubt that his legacy and notoriety today is in part because of his quite eccentric and extreme life. He's famously a novelist, writer, poet, but he also delved into other things like bodybuilding, martial arts. I think he was a black belt in quite a few different martial arts, and also for his political leanings. Mishima was famously an ultra-nationalist, and he really despised the American influence of Japan and was really in support of traditional Japanese values and ways of life and systems. He got quite popular for his politics, and eventually he led a military coup, which led to his demise. He committed suicide. In Japan it's known as a ritual senpaku, and yeah, which also kind of I think led to his legendary status. A brief summary of Spring Snow. We follow Kiyoaki, who is part of an aristocratic, wealthy family who's kind of fallen into more new wealth. And yeah, we see his household, and over the course of I think a year or maybe a couple of years we see how he grows and the things in life that affect him and the people that come into play in his life. We also take a look into the life of Satoko, who is a childhood friend of his and eventual love interest, as well as Shigekuni Honda, who I'll just call Honda, who is Kiyoaki's best friend and only friend, really. And yeah, we explore a bit of his personal life as well. Right, so to get into thoughts and opinions, this is my first Mishima book that I've read, and I really loved it. I think that Mishima writes in such a gorgeous and detailed way, and he ties nature into his prose in such a manner that's profound and poetic and so beautiful. It kind of reminds me at times of Dostoevsky in the fact that he's kind of presenting these almost mundane like ins and outs of life, but in a way that, yeah, it does touch at the heartstrings. And akin to Dostoevsky, he's not afraid to, I don't know, fall into philosophical tangents at random parts of the novel, which I really enjoy and appreciate in a book. To go a bit more into like how he writes, it's just so gorgeous, and you do wonder if, I don't know, his Japanese upbringing in life has had some effect on that. I mean, I think, as I say, he's very traditionalist, and I think you can see some of that, like how he writes is in a very like he's a lot of appreciation for Zen Buddhism and, I don't know, like the wabi-sabi imperfection of things. And at times you like read lines and it kind of seems like you're looking at a Japanese painting or something, like a what's it called? Yukio, I think? Yukio picture or something. I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure, but it reads like a picture, Japanese, I don't know, wood print, you know, those kind of pictures, in a very kind of structured but thoughtful way. And it really, really just makes you appreciate nature and see the beauty of nature, and makes you think, wow, I can't believe nature can be described in such a way sometimes. And I think that's the main thing that made me fall in love with this novel, especially to start with, just how he writes. I think Mishima is such a master at prose and transforming words into poetry in an almost like alchemy-like way. It's really, 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 really gorgeous. I think as well, just to speak a bit more generally, I think that his grasp on humanity and human nature and the human condition is, again, very similar to Dostoevsky and reminiscent of his work, but also it just shows how, I don't know, how curious he is and how attuned to people he is, and I think how he can talk about and how he can write about such different personalities in this book. Like Kiyaki is very, very dissimilar to Honda, yet he writes both characters and we can see their inner worlds so fully, despite how different they are. And I think it's, a testament, of course, to how good of a writer he is, but also how, as I say, in touch with his fellow man he is. Regarding the story itself, I thought it was very, I don't know, it's kind of a basic Romeo and Juliet kind of tale, but of course it's set in Japan and it has a very Japanese culture spin to it that doesn't really apply in other places in the world. To talk about the characters a bit, I think Kiyowaki is kind of maybe unlikable. I don't know. He's quite selfish, and I'm putting myself in a weird position now because I'm gonna say that he does kind of remind me of myself a bit. He's very sensitive and changes his mind a lot and impulsive, and I guess a bit more reserved by nature. He doesn't really want to make many friends, and he's happy with his one friend. But yeah, very, very selfish, and he makes these kind of rash decisions based on his emotion, and he doesn't really think things through as much as he ought to, really. His relationship with Satoko, he kind of says to her, like, I don't want to be with you, and then he's like, oh, actually, like, his dad asks him, do you want to, like, she's going to be married to someone, like, is this okay with you before she continues, do you have anything to say? He's like, no, I'm fine. And yeah, he says, no, I don't want anything to do with her. And then he regrets his decision and then starts an affair with her after she's in the process of getting married to someone from a very noble position. And yeah, he kind of doesn't really think about how this will affect Satoko. He's just like, well, I want to be with her, so I'm going to be with her and seduce her. And of course she loves him, and I think, you know, most of their lives, or at some point in their lives, she's really fallen in love with him and wants to be with him, but she kind of doesn't think he's interested. And for a long part of the book, he isn't interested. It's only, I think, seemingly almost only when someone else is interested, seriously interested, that he's like, oh, actually, no, like, I want her to myself. And obviously after the snow ride they have in the spring, that's when he starts, you know, feeling these more intense romantic feelings towards her. And even through the book, it's very like it's very tentative to say love, I feel like. I think at one part of the book he does acknowledge he loves her, but for most of it he doesn't really, it doesn't come across as love, it just comes across as selfish, romantic folly or something. Towards the end, I think you do see kind of like a realization and a path to retribution from him, because he kind of realizes his mistake and he wants to see Satoko, and I don't know what he wants to do. I don't think he knows what he wants to do, but he just wants to see her when she's at the monastery. And he tries and tries and tries, and I think that by him trying to see her, it's kind of almost like his penance in all the things he's done and all the shame he's brought to both their families. Although I said I kind of relate to Kiyoaki a bit, my favourite character was Honda. I just think he's a lovely parallel to Kiyoaki, as a more logical and grounded person who's definitely more set in reality, but still very interested in philosophy and the abstracts of life too. And I think that his loyalty and friendship is probably something that Mishima just admires, and I think he fits it into this character very nicely as well. So yeah, I really just want to say I love Honda. I think Satoko is an interesting character, but she doesn't really say or do much. A lot of her thoughts are kind of under the surface. Of course, all the characters' thoughts and feelings are mostly under the surface. But for Kiyoaki, you can kind of see what he's thinking and feeling, and same with Honda, you kind of know his personality a bit more. With Satoko, she's a lot more like an iceberg. She's very under the surface, and you kind of only get her opinions and viewpoints through Kiyoaki's eyes, not as much through her own eyes. So how she's feeling or thinking about things, she doesn't really admit. And even when they have their meeting together in secret, she doesn't really submit to him. She kind of puts up a fight, and although, you know, she does actually want to be with him, very much so, she acts in a way that she's supposed to act, I guess, more than how her passion's telling her to act. Very much at odds with Kiyoaki, actually. He just acts how... I think he is also good at masking, but he very much acts how he wants to act, and is a lot more selfish in that way. And he's almost brought out Satoko's selfish side by being with her. But then it makes you think, is love selfish, or is being with someone like that selfish? Which is like one of the main points of the novel, is, you know, love versus tradition or something, or love versus expectation, I suppose. Because it's difficult, because you do really want to support Kiyoaki and Satoko in their relationship, because they very much do love each other, and a lot of people do recognise that, like Honda, his friend, recognises that, and Satoko's maid, I think she's her maid, recognises that and wants to help their relationship, because they see that they do love each other. But at the same time, you know, love doesn't lead to a happy life, or love is many times at odds with expectations, and at times it feels like this book is saying love conquers all, and then at the end I think through Satoko's action of becoming a monk and going to the monastery, we realise that, oh, actually, like, maybe there's higher things we can achieve or look towards, and love isn't the end all be all. I think as well that Mishima really accurately portrays the inner worlds of teenagers, like 18-year-olds who are in love and, you know, old enough to experience those pangs and feelings of attraction and lust and desire, but still young enough to not really know how to deal with those feelings or how to process them. Something else the book discusses is beauty, and how it almost feels like there's like pretty privilege in this world, in this book, because Kiyoaki and Satoko are so beautiful and pure and gorgeous, people are almost willing to help them more and want to see them together because of their purity and their innocent and pure love for each other. Although, you know, you do wonder whether it is pure and innocent or if it's just more lust or something. Yeah, all the way through the novel they're described as being like these supreme, almost godly, mythical figures of beauty, and, you know, it's like almost like, oh, can you imagine them together? They're so perfect alone. Together they're even more perfect, and it's almost like people want to push these two things together to be perfect, and ultimately it's almost like, oh wait, when you try and make something too perfect, it just destroys itself, because you know, it ends with feeling so much pain over how the relationship transpires and destruction, because it's led to Satoko calling off her marriage and joining the monastery, and it's led to Kiyoaki trying to follow her to the monastery to see her and dying. And yeah, it just shows that out of something so beautiful, something so sad and destructive can happen. Right, so I'm going to end it there because it's getting dark now, and I think I've said most of my general thoughts and opinions on this book. What are your thoughts and opinions? What do you think of the themes of the book? About love, about reincarnation, about the transience of time and love. Yeah, what are your thoughts and opinions on this? I really, really love this. I can't wait to read the next couple books in the Sea of Fertility tetralogy, I think it is, and read more Mishima books as well. Yeah, but yeah, I absolutely love this one and can't wait to read more. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.